fantastic. So, all right, those are the usual suspects. Those are the things that everybody tells you. I put in a little bit of my own flavor into it, but the deal is that those are the things that you're going to see all over the place. Now I'm going to add what I suggest you could do. Number 2, smell test. Pick a dog that likes your smell. Well, how do you know this? Which is because you can't really ask them and they may not really answer you anyway, so this is how you know. When you meet a dog that might be your potential pet, avoid eye contact. 1, or excited movements, or play invitations. Don't sit there and go, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep. Yes, of course they're going to respond, but you're eliciting a response. You're kind of inserting something into the equation here. We want to see what naturally happens without you doing that. Watch the dog in your periphery and just wait. Preferably between your nose and your cheekbone is where you're going to aim your eyeballs at the dog. Keep your chin up. If, for instance, in a group of dogs, like say you're at a shelter and there's a whole bunch of dogs in one kennel, just 1 or 2 are focused on you when you're doing this, when you're just waiting, in an awe-inspired way, not in a cautious or aggressive way, not in a I want to be your best playmate ever right now, no kind of way, but a wow, you're awesome, in a still, soft way, then that's the dog or dogs who love your smell. So that's how you know, by not trying to insert too much into it and just let them smell you without any elicitation. And the reason I bring this up is because smell is everything to a dog. If a dog doesn't like your natural smell, they'll never fully bond with you, they'll never fully trust you, and that's not your fault. It just is. That's just the way it goes. A lot of times I meet people who picked out a dog at a shelter or a rescue because they were so cute, or that the dog came right up to them, or they felt sorry for them. That's not the reasons you should pick a dog to live with you for the rest of their life. It just doesn't work out that way. A dog that just runs up to you might actually just be curious and hasn't discerned your smell yet, which means they're not going to be very smart about discerning other things, which means they're going to run their face into other dogs. They're going to be kind of a little bit, if you want a bulldozer for a dog, go for it. But if you want one that actually connects with you naturally and chemically, that's not going to do it. Or you may want to play with everyone right away, or has no desire to be your working companion or see you as a leader. They completely don't care. They're disconnected to that. And cuteness and pity are never a good reason to pick out a dog or go on a date. Just kind of a hard, fast rule there, at least for women. All right, so let's be honest. You can fall in love with a dog that might be considered ugly by anyone's standards. And every dog deserves a good home. But you can't compensate for a dog that doesn't like your natural smell. So a dog who loves you, loves how you naturally smell, is one that will always trust you and bond with you through thick and thin. So, on a side note, don't go to a shelter right after you had lunch or stood in a restaurant, by the way. Smelling like burgers and fries is not a good way to conduct a smell test with a potential pet. They will all like your smell then. So, for me, I would choose a dog that follows your move without fear, but doesn't have to be right on top of you. Alert and attentive, but not in your face and overexcited. So I've experimented with this just because I clearly have nothing better to do. I went to the Burbank shelter, which is actually a very nice shelter, and went in there just to kind of like walk through and just see what would happen. The dogs responding to me, because I present myself very differently than most people do. They're always looking at the cages and they're, all this stuff. So I'd walk by and stop and not really give any direct eye contact in front of one, and then I'd walk to the next one, in front of another one, walk, and pretty soon I could see there would be like 1 or 2 in each one that would kind of pay attention to me. And then I would just stand there. And of course, the people who are like walking back and forth and looking for a dog are kind of seeing this weird person who's just sort of zenning out with the dogs there for a second. And I'll just test to see how they respond. And I will actually use a hand signal for sit. And the 2 that were watching me, like for instance in this one kennel, sat. Said nothing, did nothing, trained them at no training whatsoever. I simply leaned forward and moved my hands into a sit hand signal. For those of you taking basic obedience class with me, you totally know what I'm talking about. And the dog sat. Then I moved my hands into a down as I slowly squatted down, looking at them between my cheekbone and my nose. and they lay down. I said, and they were already a few feet away from me, not right on top of me at the gate. So those are the dogs that you want to choose from for yourself. Okay? Now, those two same dogs may not respond the same way to somebody else. As opposed to the dog that's all like, me at the gate. Wait and let's see who responds to you first. And I actually, after a few minutes, some people stopped and watched me do this and like, how did you do that? And I tried to explain to them that it was all about how I smelled and how they responded to my smell, and then it's just body language after that. It doesn't require any explanation for the dog. You don't have to do a whole lot of learning for the dog. So those are the things that you want to try to pick out. Even if you're picking out a puppy from a purebred, from a breeder or whatever, you're going to do the kind of the same thing. They're all cute, they're all exciting, they're all great, but which one actually responds to you and says, oh, that's what you want. Well, that's what most people want. Some people just want crazy dogs to destroy their house, I guess. Anyway, so that's kind of what you want to do to like help you discern, along with all this other research that you did, the usual suspect stuff. The final way is good old intuition. Number 3, good old intuition. This is not very easily explainable. There's no easy explanation. It's the hardest one to kind of elaborate, so I'm going to try. But I've heard enough in my lifetime, I've had enough anecdotal experience and heard enough anecdotal evidence from other people that intuition has a lot to do with whether you know this dog right here in front of you is the dog you should have in your life. Sometimes you just have to, putting aside all other judgments upon sight and reason, whether this is the kind of breed I should have, this is, what I prefer in my lifestyle, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes putting that aside is a really good thing to do just for a moment to see if anything intuitively comes to you. And again, I can't explain this, but it happens so often that it's sort of like, you've heard it over and over. People say, I just knew this was the right dog for me. So, it's one of those things that you can't quantify. It's completely qualified. What is the word? I always mess up one English word. Are you gonna help me out with this? Qualification, quantify, qualify. I'm just gonna go with the qualify there. I just forgot my chemistry. Anyway, so it's okay. Carry on with the candies. So, for instance, you started having an interest in the kind of dog that you normally didn't care for. Like when I was looking for another Sheltie, when my Sheltie was it was time for her. It was like a year of really being sick, so I was prepared for her to die, and I was kind of being open-minded about, how soon I might get a dog, might not get a dog. Again, this was more on the intuitive level. So, but I wanted another Sheltie because I loved the temperament so much and worked so well with it. But then I kept looking at all these brown Chihuahua Terrier mixes, and I'm like, why am I staring at these dogs? I don't get this. This is not the kind of dog I want. I never wanted a Chihuahua. I never wanted a Terrier. And I just couldn't figure this out. And lo and behold, I was contacted weeks after my Sheltie passed away, about my current dog, Rambo, a Rat Terrier Chihuahua mix that I never would have chosen on my own accord. But I just knew he was the one, no matter how much of a pain in the ass he was. So... Or maybe the dog just showed up at your doorstep and wouldn't leave. I've heard that story over and over again. No one claimed to know where it comes from. No one's ever seen this dog before in the neighborhood. It's just there and will not leave. Or maybe a neighbor passed away. Or you went to a shelter and there was just something. I don't know, a divine light shining on it, the angels singing. You just knew. That's something that there's no scientific explanation for this. There's definitely a scientifically measurable physical response to this phenomenon of knowing it when you see it, but I do believe that you can't rule out the possibility that you intuitively understand, for whatever reason, that this is the dog who, staring at you right now, this is the one, maybe even cowering away from you at the moment, like Rambo was. This is your dog. So that is the intuitive knowledge is a way better reason, by the way, even though it's not explainable, it's not scientific. It's a much better reason for picking a dog and it's a much more lasting motivation to committing to a dog than simple pity and cuteness. So, I guess it's just like our relationship with humans. We have our logic, we have our personal preferences based on personality matches, our natural chemistry, and then we just kind of know that it's the right person in our life, whether it's a friend or whatever. So there you have it. Do your research for the usual suspects in determining what kind of dog is best for you. That's good. Put that aside, but also see if the dog is chemically bonded to you in the moment at the place without putting too much of yourself and in trying to elicit a response accidentally, or not accidentally, on purpose. And then finally, if you have any intuition as to whether or not the dog you're looking at will be your next companion through thick and thin, and maybe you won't get that intuition. Maybe you won't know until weeks or months later. That's okay, but be open to that. In general, when it comes to picking out a dog, you got to put aside things that are put about your needs and just sort of blank yourself out. This is the information I have. This is the research I have. This is what I think I want. And then open yourself up to the possibilities. And then commit to it, thick or thin. Health issues, behavioral issues, what have you. Unless, of course, somebody's safety involved. It's a little different if there are kids in the house and you have behavioral issues that are dangerous that you do not have the resources in time or whatever to take care of. But in general, that's my best advice for picking out the right dog for you. Not pity, not cuteness, because you really could fall in love with just about anything. But for all the right reasons. So I'm going to be done yapping at you. Check out bluecollarworkingdog.com for upcoming classes. You only have one more chance starting this month, mostly because of the holidays. I'm going to be skipping the classes through November 22nd and 29th for Thanksgiving so that everybody has a chance to leave town or just take a break. So it will get us through mid-December, and then you have to wait till next year. And that might be a long time for you or your neighbor who has that crazy-ass dog that needs a little serious help. So that's it. Wow. It's the end of the show. We might actually have bumper music right away. We got like 5 cents down that it's not going to happen, but we're going to go for it. So, as usual, I'm going to say to you, that's it for this week. Next week, hell, I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth except for this. In the dog world, to love is to serve. So give your dog little ways every day to serve you and feel safe in your pack, and in return, serve your dog well. Adios, amigos.